As we come to the beginning of our meeting, we thank the good spirits, our guardian angel, to protect us. Guardian angels that are here with us today in this meeting, to guide us, protect us, and give us the strength to go on with this virus. Family members, friends are all here. May God guide us and protect us. So be it.
So be it.
Hey, hello, everyone. Good
Hello.
Hi.
to see you, Paco. Welcome. So we are studying the Spirits book, question 971, about nature of future joys and sorrow. I'm going to share on the screen now. Share screen. Okay. Tiago, can you read for us?
Yeah, sure. 971. Is the influence exercised by spirits over one another always good? It is always good on the part of good spirits, but perverse spirits try to lead astray those whom they believe to be susceptible to being misled from the path of repentance and amendment, and whom they have often led into wrongdoing during earthly life. A. So does death not deliver us from temptation? No, but the action of malevolent spirits is much less powerful over other spirits than over incarnates, because they no longer feel material passions. 972. How do malevolent spirits tempt other spirits, since they do not have passions? Passions no longer exist materially. However, they still exist in thought of lower spirits, and the wicked ones keep impure thoughts in their victims by taking them to places where they witness the exercise of those passions, and whatever else can excite them. A. But what is the purpose of these passions, since they no longer have any real object? That is precisely what tortures them. Misers see gold that they cannot possess. Depraved individuals see orgies in which they cannot partake. Arrogant people see honors that they envy, but cannot share.
Okay, let's stop here. Anyone would like to comment, to start commenting?
Mm. Mm.
Paco, we are mute. I think Paco was saying something.
Yeah.
He's still mute.
Okay, now I got it. Did you hear me?
Yes.
You hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. I guess I had to unmute myself. But this is all new to me. When we say perverse spirits, malevolent, okay, it's like, are we susceptible to those spirits? But where is my free will, first of all, if I'm susceptible? And why do we call them malevolent and perverse if they're in the process of betterment, in the process of gaining clarity? Because most likely I was there myself. That's my question.
Okay, we were not in the questions yet. We were in the comments.
Oh, okay.
The comment part. Otherwise, we will be having questions and questions and questions. But here, what they are trying to explain, as we understand, we have several kinds of categories of spirits in the spirit realm, in the spiritual realm, in the spiritual world. So we have spirits that will come from that hierarchy of spirits, from the lowest level imaginable to the highest level imaginable. So we have very wicked, perverse spirits that conduct themselves this way, and they are still this way out of their own free will. Although the law is that of progress, we only progress as much as we allow ourselves to progress with the experiences, the lessons, the opportunities that we have in life. So it's up to us as a spirit, as immortal spirit, to work ourselves and the way of reaching out higher levels of evolvement, spiritually speaking. So it is because we have this free will that we still have spirits, deciding from themselves whether they want to comply with what is the law of God, what is indicated for them as being good ways of learning, growing, improvement, getting better, or not. And very much like when we see on earth how many people we know that is not exactly good people, and we try to exert our influence and try to lead them, to teach them to a different path, but they choose still to remain on what the path that they are. But because there is this a saying that misery loves company, perverse spirit, many times they justify their continuing being this way by showing the bad behaviors on others. See, what is the point for me to improve if look around what is happening? And so in this way, they want to exert their influence on people, on spirits, incarnate or discarnate, so they will have more, so to say, spirits like themselves is still tied in bad behavior, so to say. So this is the way they justify their not their unwilling to improve and to move forward. And in this way, knowing, because this is part of who they are, and knowing the human nature, and when I say human nature, understand here we are talking about spirit nature, because again and again and again we say that the flesh is not responsible for our will, for the things we want and we wish. Everything is, the flesh doesn't think, doesn't want. What thinks and what wants. There are if you could mute your microphones. There's some background noise coming. So what actually comes in the way is, like we were saying, is their unwillingness to continue to do anything good. And so because they understand our nature, the nature of the inferior spirit, it's not difficult for them to come and to tempt us, in our faults, in our weakest points. And this is what they are going to try to do. Here in 971A, it says that, of course, when we are no longer on the material world, their action could be less powerful if we allow it to happen. In the sense that now my perspective has changed. I no longer belong to the realm of the livings. I no longer need things that I needed for my that I think I needed for my material life. And so we can be more protected, but it's still there are certain things and certain personality traits that we have that they can explore. So they can explore our desire for food, for instance. People that spend their whole life, revolving about cooking and eating and all of that. All of a sudden, they go to the spiritual realm. Where are all those things, the delicious dishes and etc. And like they say here, the passions that we bring, the passions for gold, the passions for depravity, and the for honors, for whatever we still may have within ourselves. So again, this has nothing to do with us losing free will. On the contrary, everything is related to our free will. It's always us deciding to be the ones that are going to try to pervert others or be influenced in a way of being perverted, if this is the case, or being, going in wrong ways. Still, there are some noise. Maybe people that are on the cell phones or.
Yes, Sarah, you as an administrator, it's easier for you to mute them.
Huh?
You as an administrator, it's easier for you to mute them. When you click on participants, you can see who is on mute.
Okay. Well, now I'm not going to mute because now it's time for you to talk. But yeah, we'll be doing that. Mm-hmm. Okay, I muted everyone. If you want to talk, you have to unmute yourself. And I want you to talk.
Just as a comment on what we're looking at those two questions, I appreciate and I like the reminder that our progress, our what we do, it keeps happening, right? It doesn't end here. So when we become discarnate people, and it keeps happening, we can the work and the progress still keeps going.
Mm-hmm. Okay, anyone else?
Yes.
Yeah.
Then I'd like to say something about thoughts, the power of our thoughts, because here they say we know while we are in the material life, our thoughts are strong, and in this question 972 here they say this power continue in spiritual then it's something we need to think about, to pay attention about what we are thinking about our thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, this is actually a very hard topic for us, I think, because First, because shows here, like Paco mentioned, that it's not because we are spirits that we will not no longer have, or belong to a category of perverse spirits, of wicked spirits. And in the sense that, the temptations, the whims, the imperfections we have here is still continue, and it will go on unless we do something about it. So that's, the purpose when we are studying spiritism is always that. I mean, for us to understand that, of course, we cannot amend ourselves completely in just one incarnation. We cannot change radically in just one incarnation, but it doesn't mean that we have to accommodate ourselves and not take, the small steps. Like, Lao Tse always say, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. So it's what we are trying to do here. Okay, we are no longer in the first step, thank God, I imagine, but we are still far away of being at the end of our journey. So it is a journey. And this helps us in the sense of understanding that we cannot, even if we want to, we cannot complete this journey in just one incarnation, because there is much more for us to learn, for us to experience, for us to improve, to acquire things that, in the present incarnation we cannot even imagine, because it's so far away from our realm of imagination and achievement at the moment. It's, like a child starting, kindergarten, first grade, learning to write. So my wish is going to be able to write a complete sentence. Okay, that's the realm of my understanding. Now, as I advance, I want to write paragraphs, and then a whole page, and then essays, and then a book, and then a thesis. It's the same thing. But I mean, if you go to a kindergarten child and say something about a thesis, they do not even know what this is. That's why we do not even know what still lies ahead of us. So in a way, I always like to emphasize that, because I think it's very important for us not to feel frustrated in not seeing a complete change in ourselves, because it takes time. And what happens is many people, because they don't see the change they would like to see in themselves, they somehow give up. So they say, I'm never going to be able to do it. I mean, if you don't start, if you're not patient, if you do not understand that it has, a rhythm, and that you have to follow this rhythm, and you cannot really, walk faster than you're already walking, then you're going to delay your journey, because you are going to give up until you'll see, well, there is no giving up here. The law is that of progress. I have to move forward. And so we waste precious time that we could have been just complying and understanding that, we can do as much as it is within our reach in relation to our level of involvement in this incarnation.
Tara, can you hear me?
Yes, but if you can speak a little louder, it's better, because otherwise I can't hear so that well.
Okay. It seems like free will and willpower comes into a conflict in this situation. And I think about the religious people who are able to overcome the free will and avoid being very sinful. But I'm saying the spirit world, you think that there's a conflict there with the free will and the willpower, fighting one another, each other. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, why? I don't know if that made that much sense, but the thing is, there is no contradiction, free will is there. So it's up to you, up to your free will to use it wisely. Willpower would be the same thing as free will, is the power of the will in this sense. So I don't see any contradiction in this sense, because again and again, it's always us deciding for ourselves. If I decided to follow, the good advices of highly evolved spirits, it's my decision. If I decided to go with, what the perverse spirits are leading me, it's my decision. If I don't want to follow, it's my decision. The only thing that we always have to see here is that free will comes hand in hand with action and reaction.
Yes.
So there are always going to be consequences for the choices we make. I mean, good consequences, so-so consequences, bad consequences. The choices is still mine, but there is always going to be, this is something that we cannot escape.
Yes.
We can escape choose wrongly, but we cannot escape going to through the consequences of what we have chosen for ourselves. So I don't see any contradiction here. Can we read a little more, Tiago, please?
Sure. 973. What are the greatest sufferings that a bad spirits can endure? It is impossible to describe the mental tortures that serve as atonement for some crimes, as even those who experience them would find it difficult to give you an idea. However, the most frightful of them all is the belief that the atonement lasts for all eternity. People form a more or less elevated idea about the joys and sorrows of the soul after death, depending on an individual's intelligence. The greater the development of individuals, the more refined will be their idea of them, and the more rational their views of the subject. The less literally will they interpret figurative language. Enlightened reasoning teaches us that the soul is an entirely spiritual being. It teaches us that a spirit is not affected by impressions that act only upon matter, and yet it does not imply that it is exempt from suffering, or that it does not experience discipline as a consequence of its wrongdoing. Spirit communications show us the future state of the soul, no longer as a mere theory, but as a reality. They thrust before us all the incidents of life beyond the grave. However, they also show us that they are natural consequences of terrestrial life. They show us that although they are free from the fanciful accessories created by human imagination, they are painful for those who have made bad use of their abilities during this life. The diversity of the consequences is infinite, but we can say in summary that each spirit atones for its wrongdoings. Each one is punished where one has sinned. Some are punished by the incessant sight of the evil they have done. Others by regret, fear, shame, doubt, isolation, darkness, separation from their loved ones, and so on.
For instance, we have one of the cases that we see in the book Heaven and Hell is about a person that commits suicide to be close to the loved one that has died. And as a consequence, of course, of this action, there is a rebelliousness against divine laws. The person is deprived to be in contact with the loved ones. Here, again, it's always important to explain that it's not God that is saying you are forbidden to get into contact or to reach a person that is the object of your love. This is us not having ability in terms of energy vibration to reach different levels of evolvement. Let's use an example of, computer. I have a computer that has, let's say, X capacity, but I want to reach or to access files and programs that have 2x capacity. My computer is unable to do that because I don't have the required equipment to do that. So in terms of the spiritual world, again, the whole hell and suffering and difficulties that we live is in ourselves. It's not that you go there and then, oh, this is the neighborhood that for bad spirits. Oh, this is the neighborhood for the alcoholics. This is the neighborhood for, the spiritists. No, it's the neighborhood is like the Pope already said, it's a state of mind. That's why we always say that the criminal returns to the place of the crime, because it never goes away. It's always in your head. It's always in your spirit. It's always engraved in you. And until you learn through those experiences and that you no longer want to continue doing or having those kind of behaviors and really commit yourselves to improve, to make amends, we will be surrounded by this, what is present in us. And of course, the spirits that we have committed bad actions, if also they are in a, let's say, revengeful or vengeful mode, they will not let us go as well. They will find a ways to reach us and to make us pay in a way. And this is the process for our recovery. So like it says here, joy or sorrows depends on us. The understanding that we have is still very limited. Although nowadays we have the books from Andrea Lewis that enlightens us so much about life after death, we still do not know exactly how all of that is formed, how we can, how things truly are. We just know that, we will have more peace. We will have the peace or the hell that we build in ourselves with our behaviors.
Yusara.
Yeah?
Wonderfully expressed. I always love the open mind.
Thank you, Orlando. Anyone would like to make any comment or question?
Paco, you have to unmute yourself.
I unmuted myself. Okay, I got it. Okay. It says here, what's an atonement? okay, the question, because it seems to me that the suffering we go through for not exercising our free will in order to improve ourselves, the suffering is a direct result. It's in a way, I don't know if I'm looking at it from the positive, very positive perspective, or the silver lining behind it. But even that suffering is an atonement. Atonement is like an improvement, an experience we go through in order to elevate ourselves. So even though we are in suffering, that suffering is going to help us move forward. Am I making sense, or am I wrong?
No, you are absolutely sure. You are absolutely right. There is even a story that, you know, we use for the little children to teach them, you know, how sometimes we improve. That is the story of, you know, stones. When you put stones together, I mean, and the edges, you know, with the relationships that sometimes can be very difficult, but you know, the rubbing one in each other, you know, makes the surface smooth. So in a way, the process of this rubbing, the chiseling, it can be very painful, but at the same time is what is actually contributing for our improvement, because you know, it's only like what we are living now, right, Paco? This situation of, you know, isolation, I mean, with being obliged to comply with the government's decisions that are quite right, of, you know, of keeping us home, you know. Of course you have your free will and you can just go to the streets, do whatever crazy stuff you want to do, but then you know that there is always consequences, and the risk is, you know, catch the disease. And I mean, we can catch it even when we don't go crazy, but anyway, this is a much more riskier. But the thing is, now we are here obliged in a way to stay home, to stay isolated, to refrain from any physical contact, even with our loved ones. And all this has led people to think about stuff, right? So we are going through suffering, we are going through uncertainty, we are going through the consequences of all of this has been causing to us right now. You know, for some people it's more of a financial nature. For other people it's more of a, you know, emotional nature. There are people that are going crazy at home and going crazy with, you know, the extreme relationship or staying with their family members. There are people that are having so much worry about their jobs, and you know, all the things that we go through. But in a way, all of that has is being an excellent opportunity for us to grow through this pain. So, but one point is very important. There are always things that I like to go over and over and over again. This is a Jussara's trademark. First of them, to say, remember, we will not be able to improve everything we have to improve in just one life. So put aside your ambitions, but keep going.
Exactly.
Okay. And the second one is this one, that we have to understand that we are not doomed to suffering in order to progress. It's our choice.
Exactly. Like we say that, Joao says that.
Yeah. So it's always that thing. You can progress through love, meaning acceptance, or to pain, meaning rebelliousness. So if I choose this path. So even now, you know, when people were saying we are all under the same storm, but not all of us are on the same boat. There are people that are going completely desperate, and there are other people that you will say, well, is this enjoyable to you? No, maybe not, but it's bearable. I understand that it's a necessary process. I'm trying to learn the lessons that I can from this experience. And there is this acceptance. So this is love, accept with love, and not aggravate even more your path and your experiences. But unfortunately, we still choose much more the path of pain. And so, like you said, Paco, at the end, pain will also help us grow, because how many times am I going to be knocking my head on the
Exactly.
wall without saying, come on, enough is enough, right?
Exactly. It's enough, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go to the 974.
974. From where does the theory of eternal fire originate? An image that has been taken literally, like so many others. A. Nonetheless, can this fear lead to a useful result? Look around you and see whether there are many who are restrained by it, even among those by whom it is preached. If you teach what contradicts reason, the impressions you make are neither long-lasting nor advantageous. Human language is unable to express the nature of this suffering. Therefore, human beings have been enabled to devise a comparison for it, one that is more appropriate than that of fire, because fire is both the most excruciating torture and the symbol of the most energetic action. This is why the belief in eternal fire has existed since the dawn of reason, and it has passed down by successive generations to the present day. Likewise, this is why all nations speak of fiery passions, burning love, burning with jealousy, and so on.
It's interesting because if we were going to think about fire, we understand all the benefits that it brings to us, including the cleansing, sometimes the asepsy of things that that can prevent, you know, infections, things like that. When they were burning people at stake, in a way, they were thinking that with that gesture, they would be burning also they would be helping with these gestures to purify the soul of the person to return to God. So why do we have this idea that hell is fire, like they say here? It was something that people were really afraid of, could not control, and so they came up with this concept that would be an abomination to people, because, you know, to be burned is very bad. So I don't want it to be burned throughout eternity in hell, or whatever other place they use this same kind of thing. As spiritists, we know that this does not exist. There is something that goes within this line if we think that, according to some notations we have in the descriptions of the book of André Luiz, we know that the lower level spirits, they congregate, so to say, more in the entrails of earth, the core of earth, which is very hot. So maybe this is something as well, that is spirits having had the experience of an out-of-body experience, like that of Dante Alighieri, for instance, and visiting realms of more suffering and lower level and etc. The way they could describe it was actually by saying it's eternal fire. Should we go on?
I'm ready.
Okay, Tiago, let's go.
Okay. 975. Do inferior spirits understand the happiness of the virtuous? Yes, and that happiness is a source of torment for them. They understand that their own deeds deprive them of it. It also leads them to seek a new physical existence to shorten the duration of that torment when death frees them from the matter. If good use is made of this existence, it is on this basis that they choose the appropriate trials to atone for their faults. It must be remembered that spirits suffer for all the wrongdoing they have done, or which they have been the voluntary cause, all the good that they might have done and did not do, and all the evil that has resulted from failing to do the good they might have done. When errant, it is as though a spirit emerges from a fog and sees the obstacles that stand between it and ultimate happiness. Therefore, it suffers more because it understands the full extent of its culpability. There are no more illusions for it. It sees things as they really are. When errant, a spirit sees all its past lives at a glance and foresees the future promised to it. It understands what it still needs to do to reach that future. It is like a traveler who, having reached the top of a hill, sees both the road it traveled and what it still has to travel to reach the end of the journey.
Okay. Let's start explaining what is errant, because I don't know if everyone that is here know what is this means. We say that a spirit is in an errant stage when it is between lives. When we evolve to the point that we no longer need to reincarnate, we don't say that the spirit is in an errant stage. So it is the stage in between incarnations. So this is the terminology that we use in Spiritism, meaning we are like in an interval between lives until we reach the highest level possible of perfection, and we no longer need or are classified as being in this stage. It doesn't mean that when I reach a higher level, I cannot still come and incarnate if this is my wish, as we understand what happened with Jesus. But you're no longer in need of being in this circle of incarnation, discarnation, incarnation, discarnation, incarnation, discarnation. So this is what errant means. Here, what is very painful for a spirit is that if I can blame everyone else on earth for the bad things that happens to me, when it comes to the return of the spiritual realm, I can no longer do that. everything will be completely transparent. So here I can say, oh, if I have had money, perhaps I would have made different choices. If I, let me stop everyone here. I cannot. I cannot find just a second here too. Yeah. More chat. No.
Orlando, Paco, could you please mute yourself?
Não tá aparecendo aqui o negócio.
You want me to unmute?
Okay.
No, mute.
Okay. So let's see what I was. Let me get the train of thought again. What is painful for the spirit is that if here we can say, oh, if I were rich, I could have done that. If I had education, I could have done that. If I had a better wife or husband or partner or whatever, I could have done that. If my children were better, I could have done that. If my parents were better, I could have done that. And then we return to the spiritual realm and we see a lot of people that had much less than we did, didn't have money, didn't have parents, didn't have anything, and they are much better than we are. Where is our excuses now? And most often, like Jesus already said, it's easier for a camel to go through a needle, the eye on the needle, than a rich to get into the realm of God. So when we have everything, many times we distract ourselves and we lose sight of spirituality. So here it comes to the point that I go back to the spiritual realm, thinking that somehow I had a privileged life, and now only to realize that there is a lot that I lack, or a lot of opportunity that I miss it because my focus was only on the materiality. But I also can see someone that had nothing and spent a life, of bad actions, justifying their bad actions because they didn't have a better looking life. Now we come back and we see others in other conditions, and we can no longer hide on the experiences that we had. That, like, again, mentioning what Paco said, painful or not, were the ones that were needed for our spirit so that we could grow. So I think that what pains us more is the realization that the faults and everything that we have is, is now the cause of our suffering, is a result of our own doing or undoing, because we didn't do anything to improve the situation. And the regret, the idea that I have to start all over again because, from the point of the start of the previous incarnation, because I didn't make a good use of the possibilities that I had, all of that is actually what is going to be a torment to us. And again, it's not some judges, spirits that are higher than we are telling us or pointing their fingers to us saying, oh, you deserve that, you were incautious, and now there is going to be a gnashing of teeth, right? No, it's our conscience. Everything is our conscience. Now you realizing, oh my God, I had so many opportunities. and I didn't value them. So yeah, like I say, for us the spiritists, I imagine that the return is not going to be that easy as well. We will go back there and say, you know what, I work at 20 hours a week on behalf of spiritists, but I could have worked at 21. Just one more I could have done. You see? So I think in a way it's good for us to think about it, because when we think we are doing too much, we are still doing too little. And but okay, let's keep going. Let's keep doing whatever we can, but not refraining from, with that idea, oh no, once a week, twice a week, I go to the Spiritist Center, to the church or whatever. So I'm okay with God, I'm okay with the law, and that's it. No, it's much more than that, and you're not doing that to God or to please God. You are doing that for yourselves. Okay, I'll stop talking now. Let me see if I still have a lot to finish this.
I think the ones who is on the phone, you can press start and 6 if you want to say something, like Zoraida, Ines.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to ask something to Sara.
Yeah.
What I'm getting from this is that when we're here in the physical world and we have this material body, and of course we're spirit of essence, but the material body. Then when we go to the errant state, we find what we've done. So is it because we're in this physical body, I am assuming, that it's so difficult to see opposed to the errant state because of this heavy called armor that we have, this body, the material body? It is much difficult. In the errant state, you're free from this body. So I'm assuming that has a lot to do with it, isn't it?
You see, Zoraida, and this is something that is just coming to my mind right now. Mm-hmm. We couldn't say that God is just if he would doom us to return to physicality, knowing that physicality was going to be the reason for our fall. So the purpose of physicality is for us to, through the experiences on matter, develop the virtues that are necessary to us. So you are committed to a job because you need, your to have your earnings, and at the same time, supposing that you are working on something that is actually your call, that you feel, inclined to do it, that is something that you like it. So in this sense, when we are in physicality, we are actually exercising all that we have on the third part of the Spirit's book, the moral laws, the subdivision of 10 areas. The respect to God, work as a precious tool for our intellectual advancement, but also for the advancement of our planet, of the lives of everyone else. Reproduction, in understanding that through the agglomeration of families, the family constellation, we have an excellent opportunity to start developing, the those kind of virtues like patience, tolerance, obedience when we are talking even from the children, and responsibility when we are talking in terms of the parents. And then we amplify that when we go to the law of society, and we understand that we are all connected, that we all need one another, and that we go from that to understand how important and valuable life should be to us in terms of the law of preservation, but also respecting the natural process of, to be born and reborn over and over again. That is the law when we are talking about the law of destruction. And then justice, love, and charity as being the ultimate goal of our moral perfection. So in this sense, even if we do not put any kind of spirituality or religion in the mix, by complying with that, by understanding that, by complying already with the laws that the human laws that we have, we should be capable of, leading a good, honest, non-selfish life. Sunday I was hearing a friend of mine talking about one work of charity he does, and that he was saying that, in a very poor community, and there was this family that the husband was very, very hard, and in a fight, an argument with the family, he set fire on the house, on the shanty house. And the mother and the child survived it, but now the husband, of course, disappeared because he would have to be answered to a criminal action. And the wife and the daughter, the mother, the wife and the child had no place to live. So the next, the family that lived next to them, also in a shanty house, in a bedroom with 6-8 people already, told them, come and live with us. Okay. So you see, it doesn't require money or possibilities for us to be, helping and assisting others. And sometimes we see that much more than when we see with people that could have done that with much more possibilities. So in this sense, what I'm trying to say here is, again, we cannot blame on people that do not have religious or spiritual values. We are on the 21st century already. And there are enough ethical, moral values on our planet that if people were to abide only by them, they would already be able to guarantee a much happier return.
There are no excuses.
No.
No. No excuses at all. Thank you, Yusara. Thank you.
So sorry if when I talk, I'm always kind of preaching, but it's my soul.
No, but it's good. It's good. It's beautiful.
Incarnations preaching that I still have not got the style,
You're perfect. It's beautiful what you explain, how you explain it.
Oh, give me a pulpit. And the garments. I'm at home.
May I ask a question?
Sorry?
May I ask a question? Okay.
Yes. And after that, we have to close, okay?
Errant. Errant means like I'm an errant spirit now. Am I correct?
No. Only when you die.
You're in the spirit world.
Only when you die. When you die.
Only in the spirit world.
And then we can say Tony is in the errant stage and has
Right.
nothing to do with error, okay? Errant is like wandering state, but it's the wandering is sometimes very much like so the terminology that Kardec used it, and we have been using it, you know, to classify something that is kind of new to us, is like, you know, when you say you are in between jobs, you are in
Oh,
between lives. So errant is being in between lives.
Nice. Yeah.
so even in the spirit world, I'm still an errant spirit.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
got it. Yeah, I understand now. Got it. Yes.
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 Finally. Wow, I've been using it without really knowing what I was.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Before we finish, just a little remind about our classes next Tuesday at noon. Then we have at 6:30. Tuesday, no, Thursday. Thursday at noon. Thursday at 6:30. Saturday at 11. May have some lecture. And Sunday at 11 as well. And also I don't know if everybody saw in the email, the GoFundMe. We are asking for donations. If you can spread the news and share with your friends to help us with the expenses of our center, because it's closed, but we still have to pay the rent and everything over there. Okay.
Yeah, we
Thank
reached
you.
75% of our goal already. Thank you so much for all of
Thank you.
you that have helped it. I understand that there's many that are struggling and so cannot do it. I actually put it on the chat, the link for those who have not received it. And I mean, and if you can share with others, anything helps, okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Soraya, can you
Thank
do the final prayer for us?
Yes.
Please,
Of
thank you.
Yes. Yes. Heavenly Father, as we come to the end of our instructive lesson here today, with our hearts full of gratitude, we thank you, spiritual guidance, who continue to assist us, our teachers, our mentors. We are truly grateful to have the opportunity to continue this process of learning and giving as much as we can to our families, friends, and those that don't care much for us at times. We're truly blessed for receiving all that we need. And we pray, dear Father, for all that are going through difficult times, that we keep ourselves in prayers to sending out the love and peace and serenity to those that are going through so much. We pray, dear Father, for those that are out there in hospitals, in hospices, the homeless. Dear Father, we will continue to do what has to be done. It's prayer. Pray and have faith that you are always with us, giving us enlightenment, opening our hearts to understand and to remember we are always guided, always protected, and never, never alone. May we continue throughout the week with our studies and our prayers and be as peaceful and understanding that the best law of God is to love each other, do unto others, and love God with all our hearts. We thank you, dear Lord, and with that in mind, we ask permission to close this meeting today. So be it.